Alright, good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? Alright, so this afternoon I will be discussing issues about immigration, and not just immigration itself, but how the laws of immigration tend to separate families. They tend to separate parents from children, and me personally, I believe that it's very unfair to both the parent, the child, and I feel like it's just somewhat inhumane to really separate, and break apart a family, especially if, they're not from here. But that they are coming here for like asylum, for safety, because, on many occasions things are happening all over the world where, there are wars, there are things that just people have to escape and run away from. And the fact that they can come here is great, but it's just unfortunate that they have to be separated from their families in the process. So today I just want to talk about the problem is that immigration laws are way too strict when it comes to the unity of, immigrant families, basically. So why is this a problem? Some may ask. This is a problem because separation of a family can be very chaotic. I hope I can agree that everyone here, loves the fellowship and, unity of their family. Correct, right? Okay. And really, I just feel like, especially in the case or in the position of the child, per se, separation of a family can be very traumatic, very depressing. And these are very young children that we're talking about. Oftentimes they would put the parents in jail and have them labeled as criminals, and then they would put the children in these immigrant detention centers, which also do not even take full and proper care of them. And I have a video. It's only a minute long. Hopefully I can I just, no, I can't, okay.
Exit presentation and see if it works.
Yeah, let me try that in a second.
Cut and paste.
Oh yeah, I'm just do that.
What does respect mean at Santander Bank?
Sorry about that.
We're gonna stop this ad now. Yeah, stop it.
Guatemalan mother says her baby died after falling ill at a Texas immigration facility. Now she's planning multiple lawsuits, including one against the federal government. Border agents apprehended Yasmin Juarez and her 19-month-old daughter in March after they entered the U.S. seeking asylum. Juarez's lawyer says within days the toddler developed a respiratory infection after sharing a room with other children, some of whom were sick. Juarez's lawyer says the child got inadequate medical care.
What started with a cough and congestion and runny nose turned into intermittent fevers, sometimes spiking as high as over 104 degrees. The medical care that Marie received inside Dili was woefully inadequate, neglectful, and substandard.
Legal papers filed yesterday say the child was still sick when she and her mother were released to live with family in New Jersey. Hours later, the child was admitted to the hospital, and 6.5 weeks after that, she died.
Alright, so that video was just a little example of like how, inadequate that these detention centers are. Like, they're resulting in the death of children, like very young children who have hardly even been given the opportunity to live their lives, all because of the immigration laws that have been set. And this also relates to me personally because, many years ago when I was younger, my father was arrested due to, things concerning immigration. I can't go too deep, but basically he was done unjustly. It was an injustice towards him, and it also separated like me from my father for several months. But thank God, things had worked themselves out and like he's back home. But yeah, this is basically a problem that has been going on. Not only, this isn't something recent either. It has problem is not solved, there will be a continuous cycle of people leaving their countries, trying to escape danger, and coming here only to be separated and divided, which I feel is even more worse, because when you're running away from something and you have your family, only to be separated makes things worse. It creates anxiety, depression, and it comes along with a lot of mental issues, not knowing where your family members are, especially people as important to you as your children. So the solution, I believe that the solution to this problem would be for the government to ensure families with safe housing, but not only just for them separately, but for them as a family, as a unit. Instead of them being separated, why not stay together? And also, based off the video that I showed you earlier, this just goes to show that the separation has resulted in like the death of a child, basically. But I believe that even if the parent was there in the position to really like monitor his or her child, that the child would probably still be alive today. And this just goes to show how, inadequate and how the detention centers that these immigrants are put in need to be improved. So how we do it? I believe that the way we can make this thing a reality and fix this problem is that we would need to create new legislations that would negate the current immigration laws for the separations of families. Basically creating rules and regulations that will, instead of separating them, it will keep them together and keep them as one unit. It will keep them safe, and it will basically be better for the child as well as the adult, and it will get rid of things such as anxiety, depression, not knowing where someone as important as your child is. Advantages and benefits. The advantages of these things would be, well, the advantages of, these new facilities that would keep families together would just be, the unity of immigrant families in a comfortable environment. Because when immigrant families are running away or trying to escape certain things, in their own home countries, they would not like to come here only to be even more persecuted. And more time, like I said earlier, the adults are labeled as criminals. They're put in places as jail when they have done absolutely nothing wrong. So as I conclude, I have spoke to you and addressed the seriousness of how the immigration laws are too strict when it comes to families. I have talked to you about my personal experience and how it has affected me, and I stated that how the rest of us, or the rest of the immigrants, will be affected if this continues. So I hope that I've changed your minds, and I hope that you all can agree with me with saying that some of these immigration laws are too strict, and that they're endangering both the lives of adults and children, and they're just incriminating people who are innocent. Thank you.
Questions? All right, the one question that's looming over everyone's mind, how is this related to New York City or New York State?
It affects the country on a whole, how immigrants are coming into the country and how, like, the laws in the U.S. are just, like, not really attacking them per se, but just putting them at a disadvantage, separating, parent from child and things of that sort.
All right, so on a different note then, we have a president who wants to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. We have a president who has prevented the current caravan of refugees, asylum seekers from Honduras and El Salvador from entering the United States, making Mexico keep them. So how are you going to convince this president to build facilities in the United States when he doesn't want them here? In fact, he says they have to apply for asylum, and once they go through the hearing, then they are allowed to come across the border to the U.S., but in the meantime, they're hanging out in Mexico.
I mean, the House of like Representatives now, like now they're mostly Democrat. So I believe that as like if more Democrats can come together and vote against the rules that Trump has basically laid down, then Trump will have no choice but to make a change in the U.S. basically.
He could veto any package, any legislation that Congress sends to him. So what do you want us to do? Is there anything that we could do that could compel Trump to actually do this? Like, I mean, can we march on Washington?
I mean,
Can we grab pitchforks and go right up to the White House and
we can't go right up to the White House, but we can.
we go up to the fence?
We can technically, but we could protest. We could protest and like advocate for them, because I mean, everyone like we have like family members and things like that out of the country that immigration would like not attack them, but they would just be at a disadvantage compared to like us who are already here. So I feel like we could protest and someone make a change.
All right, so Congress already passed a law when that first wave of families being broken up said that families had to be reunited within 2 months. And I still believe there's 3,000 children, something like that, at least 1,000 children still not separated. Reunited, yeah, that's what I meant, thank you. Would it be better to create a law to prevent this from happening again?
Yes, I do agree with the fact that it should have never been done in the first place. But due to the fact that we're already living in a time where it is like what it is, I feel like if we can create laws that would keep them united, then that would be better.
Is there any laws in New York City that are doing that currently? Because this issue is not just exclusive to New York City, it's the whole country.
No, I believe that there are no laws in New York currently that have like an effect on what these immigrants are. Yeah.
All right, give them a round of applause.